know quite well that the offspring looks just like the parents. And we also know that the reasons behind this similarity are the genes. But what did people think about this similarity until the genes were discovered? Aristotle believed that the offspring is formed from an undifferentiated mass, which is quite right. However, he assumed that the characteristics were passed on to the offspring via the blood. And it was also believed that the characteristics of the two parents would blend, thus leading to an offspring which had an amalgamation of the traits of the two parents. These were the major misconceptions until Gregor Mendel came along and contributed his revolutionary research. He studied the pea plants in his garden. These pea plants had several variations like different heights, the color of the pods, and even the shape of the seeds. So what exactly did Mendel do? He took two pea plants and cross-pollinated them. Cross-pollination means the fertilization of two flowers belonging to two different plants. Look at their heights closely and what do you observe? The first pea plant is tall while the second one is short. This was called as the pea generation or the parent generation. What happened when both of these were cross-fertilized? The offspring were all tall pea plants. Not a single pea plant was short in height. This is called the F1 generation or the first filial generation. Now one plant of this F1 generation was self-pollinated. What do we mean by self-pollinated? The flowers of one of these plants were fertilized with some other flowers of the same plant to produce new plants. This was called as P2 or the second parent generation. What was the result? Well, there were 3 tall pea plants and 1 short pea plant. Well, the numbers here are expressive of the ratio of the tall plants to the short plants. What does this mean? 1/4 of the F2 generation exhibited the shortness of the P generation, while 3/4 of them were tall. But the shortness allele of the parent generation wasn't expressed in the F1 generation, it expressed itself in the F2 generation. This research contradicted the blending theory which existed before. If the traits of the parents did blend, then all the plants in the F1 generation would have medium heights. However, something led to the F1 generation plants to be all tall, while the F2 generation saw 1/4 dwarf or short plants. But was there a dwarf parent in the P2 generation? No, a tall plant of the F1 generation was self-pollinated. How did the offspring of the F2 generation then exhibit shortness? Does that mean that the allele of shortness was present in the plants of the F1 generation and it expressed itself only in the second generation? Was it hidden in some way in the body of the F1 plant which was used for self-pollination? How will we understand this in a better way? The allele of shortness is represented by the lower case of the letter T. This allele was recessive in the first generation or was hidden, but it expressed itself in the second. The expressing of the allele of a particular genotype is called the phenotype. How does this work? How did this allele not express itself in any of the F1 generation plants? To know more, you must watch our next video.